This is the voice of the Report of the Week, signing on. Well, hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone listening. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week, and we are now here. We are present and accounted for. Welcome to VORW. I'm sure many of you know what VORW is, of course. But, some of you might be new to the channel, might be checking it out for the first time out of curiosity or whatever it may be. So for those of you who don't know, VORW is essentially a podcast that I do once every 1 to 3 weeks at this point in time. And in it, I simply discuss matters pertinent to the channel, and I also will sometimes read and respond to some letters that I may get from listeners. So it's also a way that you may be able to get in contact with me and ask a question or two about the channel and other things as well. And I might talk about other topics on this program as well. But really, it's just a show where you can get to know about this channel a little bit better and maybe even get to know the host a little bit better as well. VORW, of course, is usually anywhere between 2 to 3 hours long, but I figure the show will be as long as it is, and in this show I will waste no time dawdling about trying to fish for topics. Rather, there's a few things I want to talk about at the beginning of this program, and then we will immediately jump right into letters. Alright? Okay. So first and foremost, I've been kind of juggling over which of these two topics I should talk about first, because both of them are equally important, but I figure I'll talk about this one first since I really might have left a few questions in the last program. Obviously, as of when I recorded the last VORW program, the channel was undergoing some financial hardship due to the advertising strike at YouTube. Are things looking any better right now? My answer is, it depends. A lot of you did come forward and actually helped out a little bit. You helped out the Patreon and even a few via PayPal. So my answer to that is yes. Things are looking a bit better because of your support. Are things looking better, though, if you just look at the ad revenue in itself? That answer is no, unfortunately. Things are still pretty low. That's just how it is. Will it ever get better? Who's to say? But that's the status update there. But for those of you who did decide to support this channel through that, or from that, I just want to let you know that I really am thankful for it. It really does mean a lot, and thankfully now, at least for those of you who aren't concerned about the matter, the radio broadcasts that I do will be able to stay up for at least a little bit longer. If I have to make any reductions to it, I've determined the transmission I would pull. It would be the broadcast on 11,580 kilohertz to Europe, as that broadcast seems to have the lowest listenership, whereas the broadcast on 7490 to North America has the highest listenership. The second highest is 9875 to Asia, and of course the 9395 broadcast to North America has some listeners, but if things still went downhill and I had to cut, and things weren't even going well after I cut the broadcast to Europe, then I'd have to cut that one as well. But those are just hypothetics. I'm not going to be cutting anything immediately, but if, the ad rates are still in the toilet for a while more, that's the one that would go. Just because, there might be people in Europe that do listen to the broadcast on 11,580 kilohertz, but the correspondence for that program is usually the lightest of all the broadcasts, and that's why if you ever listen to the radio programs, I always ask so much for people to write in, because that's really my only way of being able to gauge the effectiveness of these transmissions and if they're worth, what I pay for them. And the European broadcast, on 11,580 kilohertz receives occasional correspondence. I mean, I get a couple letters every program, but a couple of them are usually from North America, which is, those are people outside the target area that listen, and they could always listen in on 93.95 or 74.90, which targets them as well. And the broadcasts that are actually, or the emails that I get from Europe, aren't a ton. There's a few regular listeners, but we'll see. That's last resort type of stuff, but as of now, thankfully, due to all of your support, these broadcasts will be able to continue on, at least, for a bit more. The good news also in terms of the channel, at least, I'll be able to hopefully try and go out and, review some more interesting items. I mean, I know coming up, it might have already been uploaded by the time that this VORW is up, but I'll be able to definitely get that Zinger sandwich from KFC reviewed for you all. And I also want to do a review for Culver's. I was looking on the map, and I found that there are a couple in the vicinity, so I definitely want to try that out, because I know it's been requested quite a bit, and I've never had Culver's myself, so I'm actually genuinely curious as to what Culver's really tastes like. I mean, I know it's a burger place, but the specifics, I have not the faintest idea. Some more good news, and this really has helped me change my perspective a little bit on the advertising situation, because, it is demoralizing when you see that I've been, I figure I've been trying to make this channel work, and it's, that's the outcome. But then I decide, I try and think, is making a couple bucks from the advertising revenue everything? Well, it's important, but it's not everything. No, it's not. And I looked at the statistics of the channel, and that kind of started to really make me change my view of the whole situation, because originally it is very, demoralizing to see how the whole advertising situation is going, and you could put yourself in this downward spiral, getting upset and just bad thoughts about the whole thing. But I looked at the statistics of the channel, and recently the channel has really been growing exponentially lately. And it's crazy to see that. I never thought that this channel would ever be getting, 1,000 subscribers a day. I can't imagine it ever happening, but that's been going on for a bit now, and I think that's just crazy. And as a matter of fact, this channel has actually just broken 200,000 subscribers, which is such a milestone. I never ever thought this channel would be breaking 200,000 subscribers. And seeing that this channel is just still growing, it still seems to be doing good, it's not dying at all. It's actually pretty filled with life still. That's kind of given me some hope for the future, that, even if the ad rates just stay down, at least we have a good fan base that is still growing, and it's still doing good. The channel is still doing good, so I'm staying hopeful for the future. I'm keeping a hopeful attitude now, and I figure, no matter what, this whole situation, if it gets resolved by YouTube or if it never does, we'll find a way. We'll get through it. We'll find a way. And we'll keep this going no matter what. I'm gonna try my best to keep it going, and that's just what I'll do. But I'm gonna be keeping a hopeful attitude about it now, and I think that's really the first step of it all. To keep a hopeful attitude. Try not to look at it so pessimistically anymore, like a lot of people might, but rather to look at it in a hopeful attitude. Just say, well, maybe the channel might not be doing the best financially, but it's still thriving in other ways. It's still doing just great. So in the end, it's not as bad as you think, and it's gonna, one way or the other, it's gonna get better. So I'm keeping that hopeful attitude, and hopefully that'll who's to say? Hopefully things will get better in the future, but no matter what, we'll find a way to get things better. We will. I remember, though, 200,000 subscribers. That's something that I never... Crazy. I don't think of this channel as any sort of... I don't think the channel's big at all. I guess it's intermediate sized, but I don't know. When it comes to numbers, I mean, yeah, when I see, the ad rates were so low, that did bother me, admittedly. But other numbers, I guess it's just so unfathomable, I can't even register it. To think that 200,000 people are subscribed to this channel, That here I am, sitting in this room, pacing around with this recorder, This quiet room, just the clock ticking and me talking. That here I am, sitting here right now, recording this. And that there's actually going to be thousands of people that are listening to this right now. I can't even believe that as I say that right now. I can't, and as I sit there and record these videos, I can't imagine that so many people are going to watch that. I can't. I don't believe it. I mean, would it be different, of course, if, say, as I, recorded this right now, I could see that I was talking in front of, 6,000 people? Yeah, of course, I would be nervous beyond belief. It's just so odd. I can't believe people listen to me. Can't believe people watch me. Can't believe people subscribe to this channel. I never ever saw it ever becoming anything. Except for, some pipe dreams, you can call it. I recall the night I started this channel. Perhaps I've gone over this before in the past. But I recall the night I started this channel back in February of 2011. I remember after I uploaded that first video, I remember sitting there, thinking, and this was just a little daydream. I think we all get those. And I was there thinking after I uploaded that first energy drink review. I remember sitting there kind of just staring at the YouTube channel, that one upload, no views, no subscribers. I remember thinking, imagine if your channel became something one day. Just think about that. And that was just a daydream to me. It was just something as I started this channel. I remember I know it might sound poetic and all, but it was the very first night that I started this channel. I remember that. I remember thinking, imagine if this channel ever got any recognition one day. I remember kind of just, sitting there and fantasizing about it all, and it's crazy. It was a daydream to me. I never ever would have imagined. I mean, if I showed myself, say I took myself from that night and I showed him what the channel looks like right now, God knows how I would have reacted. That's crazy. I mean, it's something I still can't wrap my head around. I mean, I couldn't even wrap my head around the fact that the channel had 50,000 subscribers. So imagine how surprised I am right now. And the channel got 100,000 and now 200,000 subscribers. It's all so shocking to me. Something I don't think I can fully comprehend it. I just don't think I can. Don't know if I ever will be able to. even to just understand the fact that people watch my videos and actually enjoy them. I don't say that in a mean way, mind you. It's just shocking. I could just never imagine that people would actually enjoy what I produce. That people actually listen to these radio broadcasts, these VORW shows. I mean, I was never a social person. I was never a sociable person. I never went out, looking for attention and validation on everything. I never really had any friends when I was younger. I never, it's so shocking to me, that's all. It's just so surprising. Crazy. Can't believe it. And as I said, if it sounds like I'm saying that in a bad way, it's not. It gives me a lot of hope looking to the channel moving forward. And again, it fills me with a hopeful, positive attitude. It's just, I guess it's an achievement that I still can't fully comprehend. I just can't believe this channel ever got to where it's at right now. That's crazy. Completely and totally crazy. Wow. Let me check the recorder, make sure it's still going. As it is. On one final note, or actually we have two things to cover before I begin reading the letters, and this show will be as long as it is. If it ends up being, if it ends up being 2 hours long, it'll be 2 hours. If it's an hour and 30 minutes, that's how long it is. So it'll be as long as it is. And I hope you can understand that. We'll just go through what we've got. I have this little chair here I'm going to sit in for a minute. And that'll be that. Anyway, penultimately, of course, the VORW, and allow me to talk about this for a minute, because I think in some shows, I talk about what it is, but I don't really fully explain what it is as concisely as perhaps I would have hoped to do. I know some of you are very, very well aware of it, but some of you may not be. For those of you who do know, VORW also has an entity known as VORW Radio International. And it is a radio program produced every Thursday, and it is transmitted on various shortwave radio frequencies around the globe, and it is also heard on SoundCloud and TuneIn radio as well. So number one, first and foremost, if you have a phone, if you have an internet connection, which you definitely have the latter, since you're able to listen to this right now, then you can listen to VORW radio programs as well. You don't need any sort of specialized equipment to do so. You can theoretically listen on your phone, on your computer, on whatever. So it's nothing that you need specialized equipment for. And it's not a hobby either. It's a direct extension of the channel and this channel's programming. As a matter of fact, the amount of correspondence the radio program gets is far higher than what the YouTube VORW gets. And if that equates the same way to how it does with YouTube, where I get essentially one letter per every, 500 people that listen, then it may very well hold true that this radio broadcast is actually far more popular than this own YouTube VORW, surprisingly enough. So it's not just a hobby, it's a direct extension of the channel to deliver my programming to a different audience via a unique means, but it does have listeners. And it has a definite listening audience. I mean, I get emails from all over the world each week. I have a regular listening base in Japan now to establish a little bit of a presence there. I do have a good amount of radio listeners that tune in each week on 98.75 kilohertz from Japan that are now tuned in weekly. There's also a group of people in India that listen on shortwave as well. As a matter of fact, it's emails like this also that really make me say, you know, I'm definitely going to continue these radio broadcasts come hell or high water, no matter what. I'm going to keep them going. I got an email the other day from a teacher in West Bengal, India, and he said that he listens to the shortwave broadcasts every week on 98.75 kilohertz. Not only that, though, but with his class that he teaches, not only will he listen, but the whole class will listen as well. And he'll actually teach his students about shortwave radio and some of the various stations that they can hear, my station being one of them. And he showed that his students made little drawings about some of the stations, mine included, and that was so crazy to see that there's this whole, you know, group of students right there in India that listen every single week on shortwave. There's other listeners in India too that listen. There was one that wrote in the other day, a sailor, and he said that while he's on his ship and at home in, I believe, Goa, India, he listens to the VORW programs on his shortwave radio as well. And there's other listeners too. I've received reports from all across Europe, from listeners in Australia, listeners in North America. There was one listener that wrote in Indiana. He listens on 93.95 kilohertz. And he wrote in saying that he knows some people who listen to the program on shortwave who don't have any internet access, but they still listen regularly. And said there's probably more people than you think that, you know, even don't have any way of reaching you yet, but do listen regularly. So the shortwave broadcasts are, you know, quite effective, and they do have a definite listening audience out there. But allow me to explain how really shortwave radio works, because I throw this word around so much, you know, shortwave. What is that exactly? So I feel I need to explain that for a minute. For those of you who know, I apologize for the redundancy, but shortwave radio, you know where AM radio is. That's in, you know, you can listen to AM and FM radio in your car. AM stands for amplitude modulation. It doesn't mean AM like, oh, that's the radio that I listen to in the AM, you know. And FM, of course, stands for frequency modulation. That's really irrelevant, though. The frequencies, of course, for AM are usually around 540 or so kilohertz, up until 1710 kilohertz. So you see, you know, AM 540, AM 880, AM 660, AM 1700. FM radio is a bit higher up. You know, 102.5, 107.7, 88.3, you know. That's in megahertz. So really, the frequencies of AM are 530 kilohertz, or 540 kilohertz, to 1710 kilohertz. FM is between 88,000 kilohertz and 108,000 kilohertz. But it's abbreviated into megahertz to make things easier. So instead of saying you're listening to, you know, hot 107,700 kilohertz FM, they'll say, you know, you're listening to hot 107.7 FM, for obviously just to abbreviate it, to make it more convenient and appealable to listeners. When you see, though, that with FM beginning at 88,000 kilohertz, and AM ending at 1,700 kilohertz, there is a huge gap of frequencies in between these two. And it's not just blank, it's not like nothing exists there. There's other things in between these frequency ranges. You have, many different things. There used to be some, I believe, analog television frequencies in that area. There still might be for some parts of the world. There were different radio services, like if you remember You might see those radios in public transport vehicles, tow trucks, whatever. Not tractor trailers, but for, different organizations that communicate, they'll use around sometimes 31 megahertz or 31,000 kilohertz or so. But between the frequencies of 1,700 kilohertz and 30,000 kilohertz is the shortwave radio spectrum. What makes these frequencies so different and so important from the ones higher and lower are the way signals can propagate on these frequencies. Think of an FM station. Say you're driving a long commute to work every day, and you tune to your favorite FM station in the morning. It's strong at your house, but by the time you drive 50 miles away to finally get to work, the station is very staticky, it's almost faded out, and it's quite weak, and you might have to switch to a different station. You ever experienced that? FM frequencies, while having clearer and crisper audio, only propagate to line of sight, meaning that at most, some FM stations may be heard 50 miles away, 100 miles away at maximum. Oftentimes not even that much. Usually a lot smaller than that. AM stations are obviously a bit more staticky. They sometimes fade in and out. They're more susceptible to interference. But AM stations can propagate much farther. You might hear an AM station sometimes late at night that's even a couple hundred miles away. AM stations have the ability for those signals to travel much farther than AM or FM. Shortwave frequencies, on the other hand, can travel much farther than even the AM stations can. Usually thousands of miles. So I can have a shortwave transmitter here in Florida, for instance, and I can transmit a signal over to Africa, to South America, to Asia, to Europe, and people there can tune in, and it will sound essentially just like an AM station. They can pick up these broadcasts that are thousands of miles away. Well, you might inquire, well, with the internet having been invented, what's the point exactly of all of that? Well, the point is number one, the internet obviously is not around in every corner of the globe just yet. There's also cases where, of course, governments block the internet. Governments censor the internet. And governments censor even some, local radio, television stations, and people really don't have any way to receive free news and information. That's one way that shortwave radio can play a role, of course, where a broadcast in a country that may be, quote, freer, end quote, could transmit into an oppressed country with free news. And hope that listeners will be able to tune in and be able to get news that's different than government propaganda. There's also, though, listeners out there who own shortwave radios, and a good number from what I can tell, and listen in order to hear alternative programming that they may not be able to hear on standard AM, FM, or even internet radio. That they can hear different international broadcasters with just the flip of the dial, and be able to hear things that would otherwise take some time to be able to listen to online or otherwise. So there are listeners out there that do tune to shortwave for alternative programming, and it's mostly them who I target with these broadcasts, but it's also listeners in parts of the world where, again, living conditions may not be the best, or the internet may not have fully proliferated into that region yet, that are also welcome to tune in as well. And at first I wasn't sure how effective these broadcasts would be. I transmitted on shortwave a little bit back in 2015, and it had a small audience. But these broadcasts really have been very successful. and they have attracted a very, very good-sized audience that I'm shocked at how many people tune in each week, utilizing their shortwave radios as well. So it's a wonderful thing, and for those of you who are interested in tuning in, and first I'll give the frequencies. You can listen in each Thursday at the hour of 8 a.m. Eastern, that's 1 p.m. British summertime. Frequency is 9875 kilohertz to Asia. At 4 p.m. Eastern, that's 9 p.m. British summertime, you may tune to 11580 kilohertz, targeting Europe. And at the time of 8 p.m. Eastern, that's 1 a.m. BST, you may tune to 7490 kilohertz or 9395 kilohertz for broadcast targeting North America. Well, I don't own a shortwave radio, now what? Well, you can, the answer is simple. You can listen to archived programs on SoundCloud, digital recordings you can listen anytime that you want, and you can tune into those just by visiting my SoundCloud page. That's soundcloud.com/VORW_radio_INT. That's abbreviated for international. So you can get there, soundcloud.com/VORW_radio_int. And you'll find the latest recordings updated every Thursday of the broadcast. You can listen whenever you want. I mean, there's weeks worth too. You can binge listen. You can just go to town, or you can listen to one and see how you like it. Also, if you are interested in listening live, because some people think, well, kind of listening just on a live stream is pretty fun. It's it's more enjoyable, gives you a more radio feel without actually owning a radio. You can tune in every Thursday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern simply by typing into Google search WBCQ TuneIn, TUNEIN. You'll find the first link there, and I'll also post it each Thursday as well. And you just need to click on this one link, and you are completely and totally good to go. It'll hook you up to TuneIn Radio, which is a good site for streaming audio. You'll hear it, and you'll hear the live VORW broadcast right there. So you have many ways to listen, of course, without any sort of radio, but I think the most authentic way to listen is on shortwave radio. You'll be able to hear other broadcasters too, of course. You can hear a little bit of everything on shortwave radio, and I highly recommend getting one. It's always useful, especially in the case of a disaster scenario, a war, as I said, a natural disaster. Even, you can keep the radio sitting there in its box on the shelf, but if things ever really did hit the fan and all communications are gone, it might not hurt even owning just a cheap shortwave radio, just to be able to scan around and perhaps not be in the dark as to what's going on. I recommend getting one. I mean, personally, I would recommend it costs a little bit more, so usually I'll recommend some cheaper ones, but my favorite so far is the Texan PL660 receiver. It's a Texan PL660 receiver, because it's just a great quality radio. It's around $80, but I've had it since 2014. It's lasted me so well, and it picks up so many signals around the globe. It's a great radio. I recommend that one. But if you want something a little cheaper, of course, you can check out the Texan PL, I believe, 310. There's also the C-Crane Skywave shortwave radio. And if you're looking for one that is also pretty good, I think if you can find one, I think it still might be available at some Radio Shack stores. They have their shortwave radio as well, that you can get heavily discounted. It's usually around $40, but you could probably get it much cheaper now at this point, and it's pretty good. I think it has a good little antenna to it, so that's good as well. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you can tune in next Thursday to the VORW program, or you can tune in right now if you do want to listen on SoundCloud. For those of you wondering its contents, it is completely and totally different from this show, in as much as I spend the first 10 minutes or so discussing random topics that you don't usually hear about in this online YouTube VORW. From there, I play music. It's a music request show where listeners can write in with any song that they want to hear play, and I get a lot of emails each week, so I can't guarantee that the song will be played that week or the next, but it'll get played. You know, it's only an hour-long show, so I can't fit in every song. But I'll play a mix of music that's vastly different in every show, and in between then I'll shout out various listeners that write in so you can hear your name read over the airwaves, and I'll even give some info about the song so you can learn a little bit more about the artist that sang the piece. And I play all sorts of music as long as it's not too vulgar, and it's just a fun show overall. A lot of people like it, a lot of people enjoy it. They say it's, you know, good light entertainment program, and that's how I define it. I say it's a light entertainment program. So again, if you're interested in listening, you can tune in right now on SoundCloud, or you can wait until next Thursday. You can listen again on the tune-in, or you can get a shortwave radio and try your luck there. Again, if you're located in North America, Western Europe, or East, Southeast, South Asia, even parts of Australia and New Zealand, you're welcome to tune in also on shortwave and try your luck there. So it's completely up to you if you do want to listen, but I present an open invitation for anyone who does want to listen. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, moving on now. Before we read some letters, I have one other topic that I do want to address, and it's actually pertinent to letters, so it's a good little transition, you can say. This seems to be something that I've run into every so often. And it's because of this why I established the letter quota. You might remember, and I say this in every show, I say, well, I cannot guarantee that every letter will be read in this program. Please write in with the expectation that your letter will not be read. I established that quota for a reason. And this was back in, I think, September or so. And I established it mostly because I was getting too many letters per program. I would give a short talk at the beginning, and thereafter I would be faced with as many as 100 to 200 letters to read. So the whole show would go on, you know, and on. And it became, you know, it became very tedious to record. I hate to put it like that. And then if I would forget someone's letter, they would get angry at me for not reading it. So I had to say, okay, for logistical purposes, in order to produce shows more frequently, I'm going to limit a quota of letters, and I cannot guarantee that every letter will be read in the show. So please, from now on, write in with the expectation that your letter will not be read. And I say that so that people who write in and expect a response hopefully know that they may not get a response, and that you need to be mentally prepared, so not to go in and spend 3 hours writing this long, long letter. You need to go in and expect, well, I'm going to write what I write, but I should expect that it isn't responded to. If it is, hey, it's my lucky day, but if it isn't, then it isn't. So I always say to please write in with the expectation that there will not be any sort of response. Unfortunately, lately I've been getting more and more letters that I guess saying that isn't enough anymore, because I have a lot of people that are very passive-aggressive. They'll write in with a question and they'll say, I guess my question in the last show wasn't good enough to waste your precious time, you know, and things like that, and, you know, a lot of things such as that, which makes me reaffirm this statement As I say it in every show, please understand, I cannot guarantee that your letter will be read. There is an established quota of letters in every program. Your letter may be read, but it may not be read. Please write in with the expectation that your letter will not be read. So I need to say that. On one final note, there's been an increasing number of people who write in under the impression, of all things, that I am recording these VORWs personally for them. And they genuinely believe that I am recording this program just for one single person, that being them. Please note as well that these programs, these VORW programs, are not being recorded for any one specific individual, and are rather being recorded for a general listening audience. These programs are recorded and presented to the general public for those who wish to listen, and are not recorded or intended for any one specific individual. If you do wish to write in to these programs, you can email me at repweekinterview1@gmail.com. That's repweekinterview1@gmail.com, but please remember the things that I just said. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The letter mailbag portion begins now. Listener letters. Our first letter is from Ryan. He writes, "First-time writer, long-time listener here, and I wanted to ask you a question. Have you ever contemplated becoming a vegetarian? Seeing videos recently online about the process of killing animals has made me question what I eat from a moral perspective. Just wanted to get your thoughts on this. Also, I recently listened to your VORW about your terrible nightmare and anxiety that followed. I too suffer from anxiety. How do you cope with it? Are there certain things that you do to make it more bearable? And lastly, do you remember the spicy McBites from McDonald's?" Well, thank you for writing, Ryan. To answer your questions in order, first and foremost, have I ever thought about becoming a vegetarian? A long time ago, sorry, moving this chair here. A long time ago I had thought of it, but obviously I never did. And while I do not intend to at present, I respect other people's opinions and what they want to do with their life and how they want to live their lives. So I have nothing wrong with vegetarians or vegans at all. I know some individuals will try to throw vitriol at one another by hurling insults at those who they disagree with. Some individuals may say, even on a topic regarding veganism and vegetarianism, you'll hear all sorts of terrible insults thrown at either side. People who eat meat and animal products and those who abstain from it. But I don't see what's so bad about some people having a different viewpoint in that regard. So while I personally I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan of any sort, I have nothing against people who are, and who's to say what the future holds? Of course, I cannot predict the future. Maybe one day I'll end up being a vegan. Who's to say? I can't predict the future. I don't know what's in store. But no matter what the case may be, I have no problem with anyone who is a vegetarian or a vegan at all. Your second question regarding anxiety, is there anything that I can do for anxiety should I get it? Well, it all depends on the circumstance. If I receive anxiety because I'm in a very crowded area and a large crowd bothers me, all I can do is essentially get out of the area, and that's it. I have no magical trick that will help it get any better usually. I mean, some days I'll have good days where I could walk through a crowd and it won't be any problem, but there will be other days where it'll be dreadful at times. If it's a different type of anxiety, say by yourself, and it's not any sort of social anxiety, one thing that occasionally happens, and it sounds idiotic, it sounds stupid, you know, but it sometimes works. It's a way to at least kind of calm yourself down a bit. Sometimes the best thing to do, if you're really anxious and worried about something, is to try at any cost to get your mind off of that. One way to forcibly do it is to sit there, close your eyes, take a deep inhale through your nose, and count in your head 1, 2, 3, up until 7. Once that inhale for 7 seconds is concluded, hold your breath and again count for 7 seconds, and then proceed to exhale that breath, again counting for 7 seconds. So in total, the entire breath would take 21 seconds if you're counting it each time in rhythm of 7, and do that at least 3 to 5 times, and that should help a tiny bit at least. It's not gonna get rid of it, I hate to say that, but it may help you out at least a little bit. Perhaps calm things down and help your mind get off of that, at least for a short period of time. If you do it long enough, I've done it for 20 minutes sometimes, you may actually notice some sort of difference. Finally, you ask if I remember the Spicy McBites from McDonald's, and I do. That was an item that was released about 4 years ago, and it was a temporary item, of course, released from McDonald's that was essentially just a type of popcorn chicken. But it was very good. I enjoyed it greatly, and I hope they bring it back one day. I really do. I hope they bring it back, because I enjoyed it, and I'd love to review the Spicy McBites one day. It's something that I hope McDonald's certainly does bring back to the menu. Our next question. Let's see. Hey John, this is J-Rod. I wrote into your last VORW and was thrilled when I heard you answer my questions. I just wanted to elaborate more on the last write-in. I've been following your channel since 2011, but didn't become a full-blown viewer until 2014 or 15. I really love your videos, and personally, keep up the good work, and don't let the goons and morons that mess with you get to your head, because the vast majority of your viewers and listeners are fans of your shows. 2 questions. Question 1. I've heard some people call you Leonard for some reason, and was wondering what that was all about. For a while I thought that was your real name, as you do look like a Leonard, lol. Question 2. Do you have any plans on bringing any guests on any of your reviews? Thank you again. Well, to answer your first question regarding the title, Leonard, of course that's not my name. I don't have too many people inquiring about that anymore. But back in 2013, even 2014 a little bit, I got questions every now and then. People asking me or even thinking that my name was Leonard. And the reason why that all came about was because in one review that I made in early 2013, and at the time I was very new to any sort of online culture. Even now, I don't follow any sort of YouTubers or trends or anything, but I kind of know some of the basics just to navigate and know what the heck some people are talking about. But I was very new to it, and at the time I didn't realize people were making fun of me through this. I was just I thought, as the saying goes, laughing with you, not at you. So I wasn't aware that they were just mocking me. That's naivety, of course. As this time progresses, you realize what's what. If someone's laughing at you or laughing with you, you can tell the difference at this point. But at the time, in 2013, a lot of people mockingly compared me to this one character on the television program at the time, known as The Community. And an individual on this television program was an elderly man by the name of Leonard. And I never followed the show, so I don't know any sort of plot or storyline. But what ended up happening, essentially, was this individual on the show, Leonard, in one episode, apparently did some sort of online food review. And he would start off the review by saying, "Hi, this is Leonard." And then he would talk for whatever he's reviewing. Anyway, a lot of people made fun of me by saying, he's like this old guy and doing these reviews. So they would call me Leonard. and I just went with it. And one of my reviews at the time, the Domino's pizza review, not the pan pizza one, the other one where I'm wearing the bow tie, I started it off by jokingly saying, "Hi, this is Leonard," and that was a bit of a joke. And a couple people got it, but a lot of people, of course, never watched the show, and mistook that statement as me introducing myself. So, that's where that came from. And immediately after, and then in the years that followed, of course, that led to some confusion. But, that's that. Led to some confusion, but now it's kind of pittered out, but interesting to see that you're asking. You also have a question about guests. There won't be any. I highly doubt that will ever come to fruition at all. So my answer to that is no. Let's see here. What's our next one? There we go. I have an idea for a review. How about you review some Wingstop Atomic Wings? That's all that the email was. Yeah, that's all that it said. Well, I'm sure it'd make an interesting review. I know there is a Wingstop in the vicinity. Didn't I just review something from Wingstop fairly recently? But the Atomic Wings, you say? The Atomic Wings. I know they'd be spicy. How spicy they would be, that is to be determined. Maybe one day I will review the Atomic Wings. I can't see that as being very pleasurable in any way, shape, or form. I recall when I had the suicide wings from Planet Wings. Remember, before I ate them, I knew they would be hot. But I thought to myself, well, I had eaten a lot of wings in the past. I've had a lot of hot wings, so these can't be that bad, right? But boy, was I wrong. These were so utterly hot. And just because I've had these very, very hot wings wouldn't make any further heat-related experiences any more better. Just because I ate one extremely hot wing, now it makes me just realize, now I know what I'm essentially in for the next time. But it doesn't give me any sort of tolerance or anything to it all. But I remember that it was the hottest wing I've ever had. Who knows if these would be even hotter or what, but my goodness, maybe one day I'll try them out. I can't give you a no. That might happen one day. Who's to say? Our next letter comes from Steve in Canada. He writes, "Being a newbie, I'm working through your archive of work, so if you have covered this question in a past show, my apologies. When and how did you get the nickname Review Bra? Thank you for reading this." Well, thank you. Hope everything's going well in Canada. Before we continue, let me make sure I'm still recording. This recorder is kind of getting low on battery, so let me make sure it's still working. I might periodically check it. You might hear that little click a little more frequently, because the last thing I want is for this to shut off by itself because it has no power, and here I am still recording on and on just to a recorder that's not working anymore. Anyway, to answer your question about the Review Bra nickname, I know we were just talking about 2013, and this also came about in 2013 as well. 2013 was a pretty big year for the channel in terms of development. The Review Bra nickname came about in early 2013, I would say. I'd say January even of 2013. And it came to be when my channel originally got a lot of attention. And one of these sites that my channel was posted on quite a bit was a site called bodybuilding.com. And at the time it was a community of bodybuilders who, on this forum, had a section thereof known as Misc, or Miscellaneous, where they talked about non-bodybuilding related topics. And a lot of them would refer to each other at the time as brah. This brah, that brah, brah, B-R-A-H. When I was talked around there, they really didn't have any sort of name for me. Some called me Report of the Week, The Report of the Week, Report Bro, Food Review Bra, Food Reviewer, and Review Bra. And I kind of got a kick out of the name Review Bra. I thought it was pretty funny, to be honest. So when I would kind of post around there, I would address myself as Review Bra, and a few others did too. And because we kept it up, that eventually spread throughout the site, and that's what I became known as. And then later in the year, as I got kind of passed around to different sites, 4chan for instance, that name went along with it. And since then, it kind of went into the mainstream. And it's become synonymous. Really, I figure because it's easier to type out and easier to remember than the Report of the Week. Review Bra, the Report of the Week. The weekly food review of the Review Bra. Review Bra, Review Bra, Review Bra. The weekly, the report, the what? You can see how one can be easier to remember and linger in someone's mind for longer, of course. So that's why that really stuck, because it's just an easy to identify name, and I have no protest about that. It's fine. I was one of the first advocates for that, to be honest, so it doesn't bother me. It doesn't bother me at all. I guess I think of Review Bra kind of as an informal title when it comes to things channel related, and the Report of the Week is the full title. But it's all interchangeable. Alright, what's next on the agenda here? Let's see. Adam writes in, I've only listened to your introductory lecture where you talk about your issues with YouTube revenue and how unpredictable it is. Being a YouTuber is a legitimate career, and I find it ridiculous that your pay cannot be guaranteed. No one would put up with that at any other job, and YouTubers shouldn't stand for it either. You should get into contact with Ethan Klein from the channel H3H3, since he set up a legal fund for helping out YouTubers in legal trouble. It just seems like you should have a guaranteed amount of revenue for each view or subscriber. Well, thank you, Adam. Thank you for writing in, and it's great to still see that you're here watching. I know you've been a long-time follower of the channel, so it's great to still see you here. Yeah, so thank you for your suggestion there, but I don't even know how well he would be holding up in this situation. I mean, I remember looking at some video from PewDiePie, I think the largest or biggest YouTuber there is, and he only made $100 from a video that got 3 to 4 million views. So I don't even know how well he might be. But then again, all these very big YouTubers and the millions of subscribers, of course, have sponsorship deals, etc. So they ought to be fine. You know, they can have many other ways to, to save up money, and they probably made a lot in the past too that they have saved as well, and bank accounts, have it invested, etc. But thank you for your suggestion. Thank you, and it's great to have you still following the channel after all these years, so thank you. Great to hear from you. Okay, what else? Hello. I recently discovered your channel and feel like I've been missing out on years of amazing content. You are truly a breath of fresh air when it comes to online content, and it's very refreshing to see such a refined personality on the cesspool that is the internet. I know that you're not a huge fan of the meme crowd, but I guess I would consider myself a, quote, dank memer, end quote. and decided to make some meme-tastic art of you as a new cover photo for my Facebook profile. I hope you can see past the silliness of it and understand that I made it out of pure respect and admiration. Well, thank you for your letter, and honestly, I think it's great. I like it a lot. As a matter of fact, I like it so much, I'm going to feature it through really the entire, in this VORW, I know it's been about a week or 2 weeks or so, maybe even a little more of that, since I recorded the last program. I really didn't get any fan art, except for yours, so I'm going to feature yours pretty much for the whole duration of this program. I'll make it the thumbnail. I like it a lot. I mean, it looks professional. I like it. I really do. It has nice symmetry to it. Me with the pizzas on either side, and there I am with the Panda Express in the center. I like it a lot. You did a great job, and you should really give yourself a pat on the back because it's very nicely done, my friend. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I know you took some time and effort to make that. So thank you. It's really duly appreciated. So thank you. Check the microphone again. Still going. That's good news. I know that this VORW might not be the longest, but please bear with me here. The length fluctuates. It depends on what letters we get, what there is to talk about, etc. Can't guarantee a certain length for every program, so it'll vary. There's going to be some shorter VORW shows, and there's going to be some longer ones as well, so please bear with me here. Next week's might be longer. I throw my hands up. Next week's might be shorter. I have yet to record it. I'm just recording this week's program right now, so it'll be as long as it is. As I said, it might be an hour and 20 minutes. 2 hours long, might be an hour long, but it will be however long as it is. Our next letter. Just wanted to mention that I was listening to your shortwave broadcasts and wanted to give a shout out to Brax, who I know is a long-time listener, for requesting the song Amarillo by Morning on the VORW International broadcast. One of my brothers listens to a lot of country music, but I never really got into it. However, I enjoyed this song very much and wanted to credit both the requester and the show host for introducing me to that artist. And he also mentions that he thanks me for bringing back the Energy Crisis series and hopes that more episodes are produced in the future, and that was from Stefan. Well, thank you, Stefan. I read the first part of your letter about the shortwave broadcast. I read that on air as well about a week or two back, so hopefully you were able to catch that as well. But my pleasure. No, it was a great song, and I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed it too. I thought it was a very nice piece. Honestly, it's country music, and I'm not a big country music listener either. But truth be told, I thought it was good. I enjoyed it. George Strait, good artist. He is. And I'm glad to hear that you enjoyed the Energy Crisis review that was uploaded as well. I know it kind of harks back to the older days of the channel, but no, it was a nice little touch, to see energy drink review there again. And there will be, though. I'll get a few more energy drink reviews going as well. Of course, it's primarily a food review channel, but of course, no, the Energy Crisis series is going to live on. It's not going to die yet. It's still going on. Still living on. Still is. It's got life in it still. So thank you again, Stefan. Thank you for writing. What else do we have here? Let's see. I marked the emails that were to be read, because I got a lot of emails this last week, and a lot of them weren't intended to be read on air. Different spam offers, whatever it might be. All these MCNs trying to make me sign my life away. I delete those ASAP. Unless it's, But everyone that I look up, all it is every single time is, isn't this is a scam, that's a scam. So I remember the first time I ever got an email from a an MCM. You know, that's when you get a part of a network on YouTube. So excited about it. It used to be the big deal. You got partnered. But nowadays it's changed quite a bit, and a lot of these MCNs are just there to take your money. There's a few good ones out there, but most of them are just there to rob you of whatever you make. So and then they don't leave you alone either. I got 15 emails from one saying, you there, you know. And then when you delete from one account and they figure you blocked that one, they'll send in another one. It's just spam advertisements, really. Not to mention that someone thought it was a bright idea to set one of my emails up for a bunch of spam lists. That flooded the email address too. It was great. You know. Anyway. Our next letter. Here we go. Greetings, dear lecturer. Opta Louise here once again. After an absurdly long hiatus between letters, I hope all is well in Review Broadland, though recent events suggest otherwise. I guess I'm writing in a silly attempt to show support in these turbulent times, as the Report of the Week channel is still an important part of my day-to-day life. YouTube may have become volatile towards its content creators, but never forget that you still have loyal viewers around the world, and with time, most of these issues will be resolved. I've been dealing with some financial issues myself, having only recently begun to make money off my online shenanigans, though it seems that no effort is ever enough to truly succeed in the eyes of most normal folk. Even so, I've returned to the Epic Club blog after dealing with a seemingly infinite series of unfortunate personal mishaps, and I feel that venting some of these negative feelings through art, no matter how silly it may seem, is an important part of dealing with the stress of daily life. I'm mentioning this because it's been a while since we've heard one of your stories, and I'd really like to hear more. I'm sure I'm not the only one, and these creative endeavors might help you get through the roller coaster that is 2017. Since I last wrote to you, I binge-watched BoJack Horseman during a particularly awful period in my life, and found some wisdom in these words. Quote, "In this terrifying world, all we have are the connections we make." I guess that, when faced with the horrifying solitude of existence, the only proper reaction is to embrace the people that help us feel less awful, as we're all just cosmic orphans drifting through space. This is just my long-winded way of saying thanks for your videos, lecturer. I'm glad that you're still out there. Well, thank you very much for your email. It's great to hear from you. I know you wrote in a lot about a year ago, Opta Louise. I know you're a regular writer, but it's great to see that you're still around. I know there would be some individuals who would write in very regularly for a time and then just fade away. But it's great to see that you're still there. That's nice to see. I'm glad to hear from you again, and thank you for your kind words. You know, I know the channel has had its ups and downs lately, but as I mentioned earlier in the program, I'm trying to maintain a positive attitude now, a positive and hopeful attitude about the situation, and as you said, to hope that it does indeed get better in the future. So thank you for your letter and for your kind words, and I'm going to keep a hopeful attitude about it all. You know, just keep and maintain a hopeful attitude about the situation, and as you said, hopefully we'll get better in the future, you know? And even if it doesn't, we'll try and figure things out, right? Try and figure things out. Okay. What do we have next? Let's see. What do we have next? We'll check the microphone again. I know, as I said already, though, I'm going to be checking it frequently. Let's check. Recording. Okay. It's disappointing to see you're earning less money, even with your subscriber count rising at a good pace. I did hear it would be fixed within the next few weeks, but who really knows? I'll make a suggestion that you may have already considered. You could add perks to your Patreon account. Nothing crazy, but maybe adding their name in the description box or a personal email. I missed the analytics in the last show. I don't know if I'm the only one, but they are highly interesting to hear. I'm always waiting for Canada to make it to the top of the highest view duration list. Hopefully one day. Love your videos. Please never stop making them. And even if you could only make VORW shows during these YouTube issues, it would be better than no videos at all. Well, thank you. The analytics will be mentioned at the end of this program, of course. I'm going to keep them in and have you on the edge of your seat if maybe Canada will have topped the list this time around. Maybe not. But you never know. I have yet to... Sorry there. I almost dropped the microphone. Think that's fine. I didn't fully drop it. I don't think it's too loud of a noise. Or, well, who's to see? We haven't gotten there yet, so we'll find out. And as for the perks, I asked in the last show if anyone has any suggestions in terms of adding any perks, for the Patreon. So we'll see. We'll see what comes of it. Yes, we shall. Next letter. Hi, John. Hope things are great on your end. I just want to say how truly impressed I am with the VORW shows. They are fantastic. The mailbag is great, especially when you answer questions, because you always have very good answers, and flying by the seat of your pants, you really have no time to think. Great job. The VORW shows are my favorite, followed by your food reviews, then your energy drink reviews, then Idle Mind, if I had to list them in order, but that's like asking someone who their favorite child is. Love them all. Was wondering, when you go to the drive-thru, does the attendant ever say, "Would you like to try our new, whatever it might be, item?" I hate when they do. That's it. Almost like they're choosing the meal for me. Call me crazy, just a pet peeve of mine. What is a big pet peeve of yours? One more thing for now. Have you ever heard of a horseshoe? They're a very big thing here in central Illinois area. Texas toast, topped with your choice of meat like hamburger, chicken, pork tenderloin, ham, etc., topped with french fries, cheddar cheese. Our Steak and Shake has them here in Springfield, and if you're ever through central Illinois on your travels, I suggest trying one. That's all for now. Take care. Your biggest fan, Brett. Thank you, Brett. Thank you for your letter. Oh, let's go in order. Well, when individuals, sometimes that will happen. But usually, if someone asks me that, I just say, no thank you. I'll just get this. Now, if I am going to a place, and I'm actually looking to review a specific new item from there, and they say before to me, "Would you like to try our new triple steak burger," right? That's an example. That might actually be a good thing, because that'll give me that immediate proof that this establishment has this item that I'm looking for. Well, it all depends, but usually if I'm not interested, I'll say I'm not, no thank you. I'll just get three soft tacos. And that's that. It'll happen on occasion. It doesn't always happen. What's more likely for me is people will say I get 3 soft tacos for a couple bucks. And they'll say, "Would you like to make that a combo for $1 extra?" I get that a lot more frequently, and I usually say no to that unless I'm really feeling a drink. But otherwise, the usual answer will be no. I'm not going to make it a combo. Not today. Probably not tomorrow either. In terms of pet peeves, I don't have too many pet peeves. Usually I'm pretty tolerant, and even if something bothers me, I'm not inclined to really say anything about it, Sometimes when some people chew really loudly, with their mouths open, you know, and you can actually look in, see the food getting mashed around, whatever. Sometimes that bothers me a bit, but again, I'm not going to say anything about it. I'm chewing with their mouths open. I might not like it, but it's not detrimentally affecting my quality of life. So I'll let them eat their meal and enjoy it. That's about it I can think of. Sometimes a pet peeve of my own is when I re-listen to broadcasts, and I hear myself like this. The way my noise, I make such a loud noise when I drink water. You know, just, it sounds like the loudest thing ever. I just want to smack myself and say, come on, shut up, you know? Why do you need to be that loud when you're swallowing water, for God's sake? But that's, again, nothing I can do about that. That's just how it is. And, yes, horseshoe. When you first asked that, have I ever heard of a horseshoe, I immediately thought of a metal horseshoe. You know, I thought, well, yeah, I've heard of those. That's an interesting question. But then I saw that it's actually a food item. And no, I haven't. It sounds interesting, to be honest. I can't believe Steak and Shake actually has those. I'm looking to see right now. Let me search this up. I want to see if there's any pictures of that. Steak, Shake, horseshoe. Check this out. See if it's there. Or what? So it's a piece of Texas toast, meat, French fries, and a cheese sauce. Huh. Well, I'll be. How interesting is that? I bet those can be hit or miss. See, I'm a sandwich person. So it'd be awesome if I got one of those with a top piece of Texas toast, too. But as it is, I mean, that still sounds... It looks pretty good. I think those can be hit or miss, I figure. I bet if you have one, it's either going to be really good, and it's going to just hit the nail on the head, and it's going to be just delicious. Or you'll have one, and maybe they used a mediocre cheese sauce, or maybe the quality of the meat is poor. The French fries are just too... whatever it may be. And it's terrible. But I bet, you know, you'd be more familiar with them than I am. I bet you'd know the places. I'm sure Steak and Shake does a great job with that. Usually their burgers are great, so I wouldn't doubt their quality in terms of that. Thank you for your letter. Review Bra. I'm here. Have you ever considered reviewing Papa John's cinnamon pull-aparts? I've recently tried them, and I'm fairly certain that they're a new feature to the menu. Compared to the cinnamon-flavored dessert Domino's offers, I think that they are superior, delivering a moister and far more enjoyable flavor. Plus, they come in an aluminum pan, which keeps them hotter and fresher than Domino's Cinna 6. Interesting that you mentioned that, the cinnamon pull-aparts, because there is an item from Little Caesars that was very much similar in terms of how it is, the way you describe it, where it really was a type of cinnamon pull-apart, these little chunks, and they were pretty good. They were, you know, pretty moist, pretty fresh. So it's something that's definitely on the drawing board there, something I can definitely try out. Of course, if, say, Papa John's released a new pizza first, that would be, I would take priority. But these cinnamon pull-aparts, it's definitely something to add down to the list. I mean, I've really been going on I've really been eating a lot of Papa John's lately. It's becoming my favorite pizza chain, to be completely honest. I find myself going there pretty often now. They have such a great carry-out deal, too. $7 for a large two-topping pizza. You can't beat that. It's some of the cheapest in the industry right there, with the exception of Little Caesars Hot and Ready pizza. So, I've been going there quite a bit lately, and the pizza seems to be pretty good, quite honestly. But it's something I'll consider, something that I definitely will consider. Check the recorder, and then I think we have one last letter, then the statistics, and then we'll call it a wrap for today. We're recording away. That's great. My dear review bra, forgiveness please for my absence. I assure you I was doing the good work. Thought I'd finally get buckled by the flatfoots and silkworm eel slogs, but never did get blotted. The joke about the leather apron gave me real fits. Grand work the last job was. I love my work and want to start again. Perhaps now you got the dosh, you'll need protecting. I sure have made some of them old ne'er-do-well insects go without a smile. I saved some of them, like a moist jigsaw. I've missed you, and yet I must confess, without your divinity I have strived. You'll hear from me again. This time I'll save much more pieces, enough to make a brand new baby boy. What shall I name him? A poem. Fear comes with lettuce. I never learned to drive. The anus keeps on bleeding. A cactus for a wife. Yours always, Orca Man. No, thank you, Orca Man. That was, I figure the best thing to do is to just observe a few seconds of silence, just to allow everyone to just process and digest that. Because you truly are a seer of the sort. So allow for a moment of silence. Beautiful, wasn't it? I mean, you just analyzed that, and that was incredible. It's great to hear from you again, and good to see that you're back in business, doing what you do best. So I wish you all the very best of luck in your endeavors, Orca Man, and it's great to see that you're still around, so thank you for writing in. It's great to hear from you. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we wrap up this program of VORW. I know that it was a shorter program, but that's just how it is. You get some shorter programs, you get some longer ones, and everything in between. With that, however, let us look at the statistics for last week's program, VORW number 144. Of course, at 0 seconds, 100% was in attendance. By 1 minute and 11 seconds, 39% were still watching. By 23 minutes, 0 seconds, 13% retention remained. By 1 hour, 2 minutes, 0 seconds, 11% had remained. Finally, at 1 hour, 57 minutes, 0 seconds, 7.3% was what was left in attendance. So the magical 7.3%, if you made it to the very end in one full swoop, that is what you can consider yourself. 3 countries that had the highest view retention were as follows. Watching in its entirety: Thailand, Jamaica, and, of all countries, Guatemala. So, anyone in those 3 countries, give yourself a pat on the back. You made it through the entire way. And Thailand, you have a good shortwave station, Radio Thailand World Service. And Guatemala too, Radio Verdad, 4055 kilohertz. Of course, the countries with the lowest view duration, one of which watched for 0 seconds. I guess they clicked the page and immediately clicked away, and the other ones for 1 second apiece. Paraguay, the U.S. Virgin Islands, and Sao Tome and Principe. And that final country, Sao Tome and Principe, for those of you who are aware of what country that is, it's an island nation off the west coast of Africa. And it's a small country, but it hosts a transmitter for the Voice of America's shortwave and medium wave broadcasts to the African continent. So that's how I know of that nation pretty well. They have their shortwave transmitter there. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, if you are interested in writing in for the next broadcast, please remember the words that I said before this fan mail segment, that writing in, of course, is voluntary. Your letter cannot be guaranteed a reply. If you do wish to write in for the next program, you may write to me at repweekinterview1@gmail.com. That's repweekinterview1@gmail.com. Thank you all for listening, ladies and gentlemen. This is VORW, the voice of the Report of the Week, concluded.